I'll start over. My microphone was off. Welcome to episode 199 of Live Drawing. Tonight we're going to be working on the commissions that we have to finish for finishing the fulfillment of Undersea Hero, the campaign. We're in kind of the home stretch of getting everything off and done. But we've got some watercolors to finish. So we're going to start with the underpainting. I don't know how far we'll get tonight, but we'll get as far as we can go. I don't want to do too much dark underpainting, so I'm just using a little bit of a very light wash. It's Payne's Gray. And when we put the true blue on, I don't even know if people will notice it, but it definitely helps me to visualize all the needed color. And we added a little bit of a rim lighting, which is atypical for me as I don't use it very often. But until people, until we get any comments, I'll turn off the things you can see. We'll bring it back if people decide to be chatty tonight. Payne's Gray is kind of like my go-to for most shadows and things, for underpainting, because it works really well with other tones and hues. So I don't remember when I started using Payne's Gray like this. It was pretty sure it was in college. So as far as what else is going on, today was busy with the day job. The Steamship Authority Woods Hole Terminal, the new one, is opening tomorrow. They didn't post anything today, so I won't be surprised if it's a light evening. Got our first comment. Hey, Jonathan. I'm all right. I'm pretty tired. I've been down at the terminal building signs most of the day, so I'm physically tired, but glad to be here doing this. How are you today? Read any good comics lately? I did read, my parents brought a few comic book boxes from their house. They visited, and I read some early 2000s comics, which I hadn't read in a million years. I read the X-Men Clandestine crossover, which I hadn't read since I was, a teenager. I will say anything that Alan Davis draws, I will read. Signs, like signs for the city. Signs that say like caution bus crossing, things like that. I designed them. I had them ordered and printed, but I ended up having to go down and physically assemble them as well. Oh, there's a new Deadman. I didn't even know there was a new Deadman. I always liked that character. I always thought Boston was a cool character. I did always kind of wonder why it didn't, pass the mantle. Why it was always just Boston brand. I really enjoyed the Len Wein Garcia Lopez team up on Dead Man. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Trying not to overdo it. Sometimes I overdo the shadow stuff and it gets a little muddy. Yeah, I have not been to a comic book store in quite some time. I'm trying to remember the last time I was in a store and bought new stuff. It might have been Free Comic Book Day. Hey, Martha, it's good to see you. I'm a bit tired, being honest. Lots of text in a comic book. Wow. Was it like captions, thought balloons? Like, was there like some introspection, or was it just a lot of dialogue? I'm intrigued to know. So when I think of lots of text, I do think of Don McGregor as being very verbose. Got blurry for no reason there. Oh, cool. The inner monologue is something that kind of fell out of fashion. It was used everywhere in the everyone wants to be Alan Moore world, but then it fell out of fashion. It's another tool. So like I'm always intrigued to see what people do with it. I saw Ron Mars did a good job balancing that, giving you enough but not too much. That makes sense. If you have certain dialogue, different phraseology that certain characters use, that is a good way to keep people up to date. When it's characters I've created, I have a good sense of how they would react in most situations. So like their dialogue does come off as it doesn't come off as formulaic. It definitely comes off as theirs. I admit when I write stuff, I have cut back my text considerably. I would say that I've gotten into the habit of showing and not telling more often than not, and maybe I should do more telling in some of my stuff. I think you could read Undersea Hero in like 15 minutes if you just sat down and like were only reading the captions or whatever. I don't even know if you can really see the underpainting that I have coming happening on this piece yet, but that's okay. I don't know how much I'm going to do on the background portions because this will be largely. I was actually thinking about doing this all basically in purple and then having like a nice orange, uh, yellow, red, magenta sky. I mean, I definitely have some authors and stuff that are wordy that I really enjoy. So I also just try not to, unlike with my artwork where I can't help but be fidgety and add too much stuff and that sort of behavior. With my writing, I've been able to be more concise. I don't know, maybe it's just because of the place I've put it as far as putting my work together, which I do put the writing secondary to the artwork. Yeah, I was gonna have it at, the golden hour kind of thing. Except you don't see the sun. Beauty of that is we can go in with some very simple impasto paint and clean stuff up. So when you go with exaggerated lighting, you can actually it can help you. Um, I kind of point at that like when you see certain actors use a heavier accent, so maybe cover up if they're British or whatever. You'll see them do a Southern accent or a New Jersey accent instead of like the Midwestern neutral for some misdirection. Thankfully, I painted a couple of tick pieces recently, so like I kind of have in my head, what works and what doesn't still. I used to way overpaint on the underpainting portion of things just to get the trying to get the most tonality out of it. And sometimes I would get cool effects, but sometimes it would get muddy. So I'm trying not to overdo it. But somebody may look at this and go like, "What is even the point?" But I've had artists on many occasions ask me how I get my colors so saturated and with such great depth to them. And when they ask me that, I tell them about this technique of underpainting, and it's treated more like an oil painting than it is a watercolor painting. And one of the benefits of painting on um, Bristol board as opposed to watercolor paper is that the color sits on top of the paper. It doesn't all get absorbed. Some does, but you can go back in, you can rework it with water, you can do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I like using accents and things like that. Yeah, just like that. Exactly, Pat. I'm almost done with my Heroes Con recap video. I did record the voiceover last night. I just have to work on the sound mixing, which is not my best strength. So if the dialogue is a little loud or the music's a little too soft or whatever, just chalk it up to me not having done too much of this in recent times. Kind of glad I'm painting tonight and not drawing because there is I find painting to be less stressful. And I find drawing to be a little bit more stressful, just because it's the structure is just so vital. This is my one little addition to Arthur. Um, Anytime I draw him with like a little rabbit's foot off of his flight pack. Um, I'd never seen anyone else do it. I just thought that it fit his character and who he was, and how he kind of exists with that old Americana. Um, that's the right word. It's not even an archetype because it's not. I'm trying to think. It's like it's got like that boomer influence. I don't know, that generation, 1950s America. I think it's also because the people who publish the Tick are obsessed with that time period. 57 pages. That's a lot of pages. Yeah, I mean, what I find interesting about the anti-subject movement of fine art is that to people who paint, they get the joke. But to people who don't paint, they just see that as like some sort of laziness or unworthy praise or whatever. I don't know. I could be speaking out of turn. I've been out of fine art for decades at this point. You know your stuff, Pat. It's definitely retro. I'm not sure if it's kitsch, but it's definitely of its time. Roadside. Because if you remember the portion of the series where the Tick and Arthur and the original Edlund issues go on a road trip, I think that that is very much an encapsulation of how Ben perceived those characters. If you want to call it slop, you can. I have a hard time calling anything made by people slop. I can call things made by computers slop with no uh, hesitation. But anything that people take the time to do, because I mean, I think one of the aspects of the comic book business that's largely forgotten, even though it did make a comeback about 5 years ago, is artists learning on the job. If you look back and you look at early artwork by many of people's favorites, like there was such a need to fill pages because it was such a large entertainment uh, medium, mass market medium, that they needed people to fill pages. So you got to see artists before they were ready getting assignments, like big time assignments, or learning on the job on like the side books, like the anthologies and stuff. And you know, I know I do. I tend to think of the fully formed version of artists. You know, I think of, you know, what Howard Chaykin became on, you know, The Shadow or American Flag is the appropriate answer there. Or, you know, what Jim Lee became. You know, if you think about what he did on Alpha Flight, if you look back at that stuff, you know, some of the layouts were by Carl Potts, and you can see that. And the finish wasn't quite there yet, but it was hidden there. Hey Jay. Yeah, I've got three paintings I gotta finish. I've got this one, I've got the big Tick versus the Legion commission that we worked on, and then I got one more, the lady from the DC anthology series, The Witching Hour that we did too. I gotta finish those and get these things mailed out because I wanna finish the fulfillment on this so badly. Now, the one thing about watercolors, you do have to plan early on for any sort of lighting. So we gotta get some water over here. I use a syringe to move water when I'm doing watercolors. It saves me a crap load of time. So it's a technique I highly recommend instead of just going back and forth with a brush, and dropping water in and dropping water in. This is a lemon hue. It's a very, very bright yellow. It's really excellent for underpainting. And then I'm going to bring some of this over here just a little bit and grab a little bit of this orange. We're going to need a little more than that. We're going to have to get the... And yes, I know I'm cheating by using pre-mixed orange. I'm sorry, my former painting teachers who would be furious and disappointed. You working on anything tonight, Jay? You got anything in the hopper that you're cooking at? Are you going to be at Boston? Are you going to be at Fan Expo Boston? Oh no, I haven't seen that one, Patrick. I would love to watch that. Is it on anything other than Disney Plus? Which I disappoint people every time I tell them I don't have Disney Plus. When you see the underpainted version of stuff, it makes very little sense, but as you can see real close, right there, there's just a little bit of yellow. And what I'm actually doing is I'm basically circling where the white will be left. And this is something you can add at different stages. I like to do it here because this decision-making portion I like to have out of the way. I always thought that I have the DVD of the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I always thought that the making of 20,000 Leagues on that DVD was an excellent behind the scenes look at the whole process of that film being made. And this is just very, very light, very, very light underpainting. I'm not trying to go too heavy-handed because these are bright, colorful characters that have very flat colors as their main look. And I don't want to lose that. It's even hard to see just on the camera from what I see on the screen. And I'm sure there's art teachers yelling, "No, no, don't underpaint like that." And I would agree on watercolor paper, you don't want to underpaint like this, but on Bristol, I think it creates really, really bright colors when you do it right. And you use your color theory that you know, and you use your lighting. I think you're able to really do some stuff that exceeds normal output. Feel bad for the laid off people. Cal Arts ain't cheap tuition either. Yeah, that's true. College ain't cheap. Doesn't matter what degree. Of course, it tells me there's a driver update available. Now is the perfect time for it to update a driver, wouldn't everyone say? This is just a number 4 round. It's a Princeton sable brush. Or this might be a, not synthetic, but what do you call it? Not good with my words tonight. Pat Flaherty gave us a boo. Why did we get booed? Why is Pat booing me? I feel sad now. Got a nice plug from Eli Stone today. He mentioned us on his stream, which was nice of him. We do have our 200th episode as our next show, so maybe we'll do a giveaway. Ah, gotcha. Boo, Cal Arts. Now, Arthur's jumpsuit is just white, so we're not going to add yellow to it because it's not going to react to light in that way. It's just like a white stretchy material, but it does. We will put some on his little lucky rabbit's foot and then on his face. Just a little bit. And I don't even know if people can really see that. There's just a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue here and there. Got to put a little bit of yellow on Tick's face, but then we might be able to start blending some colors for our main characters. Or we can work on the background. Maybe we'll work on the background next. That's the smart thing. You're supposed to do the background first. A little yellow there. Bit there. a touch right there. And that's it. Just a few drops of water with pigment in them. I believe I have a purple. Like I said, my old painting teacher would be like, "Why do you have a purple? You got blue, and you got red. You don't need a pre-mixed purple." But for something like this, after a long day of work, I will accept some pre-mixed purple to help my day move along a little faster. It'll get me to the. I got to put out my clothes. I finished putting together my lunch for tomorrow. I got to get up at like 4:30 tomorrow, which is not ideal. Not ideal. Light sources up over here. So we're going to have some. Okay. This is a dabbling technique that I like when I want to create sort of a modeled tonal shift. And it's when I'll take a little bit of yellow, I'll mush the brush in there, and then I'll take some of this orange mixture that we made that's just a tad darker, but not super dark. And just drop in just a little bit. And then that allows the water to do a lot of the work. And because we used the type of ink we used, we don't have to worry about going over the lines. Started prepping for Art Fight. One of the rare kit people that I've been using now is Aero Race, and another one turned Rainbow in 2025 is now Demi Boy. Cool. Yeah, 4:30 is early. I don't want to get up that early, but I have to. And you see that where I've kind of just dabbled the orange into the yellow and it kind of spreads? That's the effect we want to have. And we'll bring in just, I think we need a little more yellow in here. Because we want it to be more yellow heavy than orange heavy. And the good thing I like about this yellow is that when it dries, it stays bright. The cadmium yellow tends to darken a little bit when it dries. So, and then on this back side, we'll just go in. Just have some fun, just drop some. It doesn't have to be even. And if we need to put more yellow in later on, that's easy. We can just layer it on top. A little bit of orange, not a ton, just a little bit. And then we'll go purple around on all the buildings. We're just yellowing in the lights, what would be considered the quote-unquote lights. Yeah, I think I was half mentioning that I read the X-Men Clandestine issue. And I do love Alan Davis's artwork, man. I'll read anything that guy draws for superheroes. I think he draws the prettiest looking superheroes. I don't know if it's even arguable. He's got the perfect balance of like his influences and his own original stuff that's mixed in there. And he's another artist that's interesting to go back and look at his early work. If you look at his Marvel UK stuff on Captain Britain, it's interesting to see because you can see where the creative decisions led to where he is now. If I were to pick one book to sell someone to introduce themselves to his work, I would say The Nail, which was an Elseworlds that he had done for DC. They did a couple series, and they're both very good. So that would be my suggestion for introducing yourself to Alan Davis's work if you're not familiar. I don't own any originals of his. I hope that changes someday. Oh, I saw Eric Larson had a very interesting post, uh, and this would fall under random Charlton Comics news, which is fascinating. Getting it in 2025. Um, Apparently, Eric Larson offered and submitted Savage Dragon, the original one that he self-published, The Dragon, to Charlton Bullseye when they were publishing fan comics and not paying, just publishing them. So, in an alternate reality, the first Savage Dragon was a Charlton book, not a self published book. When you're collaborating with people, it's hard not to step on people's toes, but I know that when I collaborate with people, I put a certain amount of faith in the artist and let them make creative decisions. Even if I don't agree with them, when I hire somebody, I am trusting their ability and their judgment, and I'm allowing things to happen that I don't necessarily plan for. And I think that you trust the talent, you trust the choice of picking someone to collaborate with, I think is the single most important editorial choice that can be made is the hiring. And when you go beyond that, I, I I don't believe in meddling. So like when we did AR Comics, when I had Joe St. Pierre or Pat Broderick doing pages for us, just let them roll in, man. And if the story needs to be adjusted to fit the artwork when it rolls in, you adjust the story. Because that gave me the best results on like a shoestring budget. It's just to let them have fun and to not get in the way of things. I missed a spot on Arthur, but we can get that later. It's a very bright purple, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of this Payne's gray just to soften it some. I would describe it as having a hard edge. Is it soft enough? No, it's not soft enough. See, my old art teachers, I'm not just using it straight out of the tube. I'm looking at it, I'm making judgment calls. That's a very nice violet right there. That's an interesting, it's more like a jam comic, is what it sounds like, where you guys can change your characters and stuff on the fly. It sounds like it'd be an interesting challenge. We could always layer in more color, but right now I'm just getting a nice flat tone. And we can go in with more pigment as we go along. This time while painting, I did remember to bring a towel in case there are spills. And because the pigment kind of lays on top of the paper, you can continue to add to it, and you can get better layering. I can hear art teachers cringing. It has to get absorbed into the paper. This was something I adapted out of. I don't know if anybody else paints like this. I adapted this out of just necessity. Oh, that's absolutely true. You had a lot of cooks in the kitchen there. The good thing about the Payne's Gray is that we can always put another layer on if we need to. It's like I said, it blends well. I've actually put it into have you ever seen these? These are just water brushes. You can fill these with, I use them for ink wash, and I also use them for watercolor when I'm doing a lot of watercolor. I probably should be using them now, but I'm not doing the same character over and over. I do have two tick pieces to do, but like I've got two others that are not tick pieces. Actually, I've got three tick pieces to do. Thanks. And when we come back in, we're going to start, like I said, we'll start with a magenta, and then it'll go into bright orange, and then as we get down to the bottom, there'll be a little bit of yellow, but it's going to be a largely magenta orange background, very bright. Sometimes when I take risks with color, the results or the reaction to the results varies greatly, but I find it fascinating, and I do things like that intentionally to set a certain mood or to try to justify a certain character's look. Yeah, this magenta I like quite a bit. Quinacridone magenta. It works very well. I don't know if you've ever seen like 1990s and 2000s Michael Golden covers, but he used to love using magenta, and it just one of the reasons is when you're printing and you put 100% magenta on top of stuff, it just explodes off the paper. I don't know if we should attack the background tonight just because it's getting late and that's going to take some time, but we can give it a shot. I've got a bigger brush over here is what we'll use for that, and we've got to mix some colors. Yeah, I'd say they just need to chill out. Let embrace the variation and the excitement of the collaboration. Magenta and aqua blue. They're solid colors. Solid color choice for favorite colors. I've always been a green guy. when you use a single color over a complex structure of line art, what it does is it does help to unify it, or if you've made a mistake, it will definitely push it into the background and it can hide some of that stuff. And this is, like I've said many times, this, if you're getting technical, isn't a painting, it's a colored drawing. Should have washed out this other palette that I had, but I think I can use. That could work. Just tell the kids it's an Elseworld. Or come up with your own like name for that, like an alternate universe thing. So a Marthaverse. See, that paint's a little thick, so we're gonna add a little more water to that. How's that look? Very bright, yes, but still a little thick. I'm surprised. We'll bring some water over here. And we'll put our magenta. See if that's enough pigment. The other good thing about painting on using watercolors on Bristol board is that it dries incredibly, incredibly fast. So that looks good to me. Let's see how it looks next to the orange. Yeah, I think that'll work nice. Let's get one of our big brushes over here. Like I said, it's a big brush. It's got some blue in it still. I know I just washed it. Sometimes that pigment is tough to get out of brushes, even when I use the soap and everything. I think we're good. This is Make Mine Martha's Verse. Hey, anything that makes it so that your collaborations are more on the level. What I'm doing now is I'm actually mixing the color. Hey, Desiree, good to see you. Right on the paper. So when I go in, I've got some water on there, then I grab some of this magenta, bring that in. And we can grab that orange that we mixed, just mix it right on the paper. Covered in cat drool. That doesn't seem like a bad evening to me at all. It's a very pro kitty channel right here. Grab some of that yellow, drop it right in there. Exactly, the yellow that's on the tick will be next to the pure white areas. And here I'm just dropping a little more magenta on there to soften it out a little bit. You know, by the time we get over, like I gotta be careful because I don't want to get any on Arthur's wings there, but we definitely want orange here. That's right, happy little sunset. I mean, why? With the tick, he's all blue, so anytime you can get orange into the background, do it. It's the complementary color. It always works. People are afraid of orange, and you understand why. It's an intense color, but I believe in people's ability to use it. Know your color wheel. That's I took color theory in college, but like there are plenty of books out there. Yeah, I didn't have anything to give out on Free Comic Book Day for free. Next year, I plan on, since we'll have Undersea Hero fulfilled, I'm hoping I have the money to just put the first 10 pages or so, I don't know, 8 pages, into a free mini that I can give out wherever I'm at on Free Comic Book Day. This portion really got to keep moving while the paint is still wet. You can't just wait for it. Grab this mixed color. And grab some more yellow at the bottom. And we can add some more pigment to it. Really hit the yellow at the bottom like that. And come back and grab just a little bit more magenta. Pull it in. So add some water. Spread it out. I actually want to come back up in here and give us a little bit more tone because I think it needs to be redder up at the top. And it's a beauty. You can keep layering. It's something that on regular watercolor paper, it's really tough to do. Hello. Welcome to our little corner of the internet. Nilo? And I left a little bit of white in there. You'll see it's going to curl back up this way so that it has some clouds. Like I wanted there to be some cloud modeling. Oops. Back, cute little brush. And who knows, when I finish painting the tick himself and I see that bright blue, I might need to put more orange in there because like I'm going for like a mottled look. It might need to be flattened out a little bit. There might be too much variation, but you know, we'll see how it looks. I'll get a little bit of that magenta in there. And I know it's a bummer that we won't, you know, get to see the finished product, and everybody likes to see the finished product, but you'll have to just trust me, and I'll post it on the social meteors. You have a bunch of drawing to do this weekend? Cool. Right in here, I wanted to start having just that bright orange so that he pops off when we put the white, put the blue on it. This part will be orange. And down here we've got to add our like your orange yellow mix. Now we've got to save these colors because we might need them later on. That's a good question. What are you working on this weekend, Nilo? Working on anything fun or good, or you got a book you're working on, or character drawings, or collages? I think we'll probably need to add some more orange up here. I don't think it's orange enough. I think I added too much magenta. So we will do that. Oh, dragons. Oh, okay, cool. My buddy Chris Campana likes dragon drawings. We talked about this at a convention once. We were talking about like the types of high fantasy that we like. And I tend to like mine with like a little less powerful magic. I don't like for magic to be able to like to solve the world's problems. I'll grab some more yellow here. Finish out the bottom. And like I said, there's some mixing happening right on the paper. Come back up here and I'm gonna make a lighter orange. I'll probably pull some of this, mix it in here with that yellow orange. And what we'll do is we'll get a little bit more water. Mix that in. I tell you, when I started using the syringe to move the water around, it sped me up quite a bit as far as getting color pieces done. And again, this is another technique that because we're using this type of paper, the orange will just sit right on top and be a little translucent. You can always grab a little water, pull it back. Right now what I'm laying down is mostly water with just a touch of tiny, tiny bit of orange pigment into it. A Dragonpedia book. That sounds like a pretty big undertaking. I would imagine that there's a million dragons out there to draw, at least from what I see. That's one of the great things about fantasy art. There's so many different directions you can take it, and there's so many different ways to go with it. So you can blend it with other genres, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can see we reduced the amount of white in the background so it doesn't conflict with the foreground as much. That was a smart move, which I didn't plan at the beginning. I didn't plan everything. Some of it we do on the ride, shall we call it. You see what I did just there, where the pigment built up along that edge? I was able to pull it in with some water and mix it right on the paper. Monster girls. And we'll probably need to go in with some more purple in here, because as this dried, it got a little too flat for my taste. Yeah, some people don't like when this happens, when it pools up like that. I actually like it quite a bit. Creates interesting textures, unexpected results, different looks, different feels. Yeah, did you see what I just did there? Where that pigment had built up, I'm able to go in and just mix it further with the paint that's around it with just water on the brush. I don't throw a ton of water down on, especially on Bristol board, because it just can't take it. You can see it's warping a little bit, but that's as warped as it'll get. And I can press the paper later. I'm actually going to go back in and do that purple now because we have the time and I have the paint here. That's not going to take very long. And that'll be what we end the evening on. I think I added a little too much Payne's gray, so we need to go back in with a little bit more of that vibrant purple. It's not creating the effect I want it to. It's really, the dryness of the brush really isn't any. It's not carrying more liquid than if I were inking with it. I don't know if that gives people a better understanding. Does anybody else ink with a brush still anymore? I don't even know. There we go. That looks a little more saturated. And like I said, you can just layer it on there. I think this technique would work well for people that have never done a lot of watercolor painting, but have done marker technique. It's very similar, except you can do more painterly saves and techniques. That was the thing that killed me with markers, was that I was never able to master the fixes. There we go. You see the pop of that purple against the orange? That's what we're going for. Very bright, very saturated. And fun. We want it to be a fun piece. And now that we have this yellow done, we can go back in with a little bit of neutral color, and we can give some shadows to the windows and such. The pretty purple, the previous purple, was the color I wanted it to be when it was dry. And that's one of the deceptive things when you're mixing watercolors, is that sometimes when it dries, it'll flatten depending on what the mixture is and what type of pigment you're using. So that was just a mistake on my part. I'm going to be doing more painting tomorrow night. So what I'll do, and this is something you can do, is this is one of the best purchases I probably ever made, was a whole ton of these just large bulk Ziploc bags. And I'll just put this in a Ziploc bag and it'll be good for a couple days. Um, the paints will be. Oh, you like to draw superheroes and ninjas. There was a time when ninjas were in like every comic book at some point. Ninjas had a moment back in the 80s when I was a young person. When I was just a wee lad. Well, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for popping in tonight, Nilo. I'm glad we've got a new artist hanging out with us. So, well, welcome. Actually, Jay was here earlier. I've got to bug him about the dime box stuff. He's been dealing with some personal stuff, so I haven't wanted to bug him. There we go. Now you can see that purple-orange dichotomy there. I kind of wish I had a few more purple on this building, but because of the way it's designed as being a glass building, we'll have to fudge it a bit. But that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. We haven't obviously gotten to the main characters, but we got a lot done. We got the underpainting done and we got the background done. So that's a successful evening in my book. It's going to take me a little while to clean up here, so thanks for everybody for being here tonight. Always good to see everyone. And next week is episode 200, so I think we'll do a giveaway, and yeah, we'll try to have some fun. So I will talk to everybody later. Hope you have a good night and a good weekend. Bye.